everybody. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Parakeets in the Nest. I'm Cynthia Handal, GTM advisor for Parakeet, and today I'm joined by somebody who's not only really special, but he's also a great friend. And if you follow him on LinkedIn, you will know that he's all about positive energy, has helped so many marketeers at startups and enterprise alike build new businesses. This is Dee Acosta. He's currently at Metadata, driving outbound strategy and social selling. He's a proud dad of a girl. And one of my favorite things about Dee is he's a follower of the Challenger sale and a strong voice for diversity across sales and marketing. So Dee, welcome to the show.
It's awesome to see you again. We've done this before, so
I know.
it's good to do it for Parakeet. Yeah.
Yay. So excited to have you on. How's everything? How's life going?
Good. I think most people seeing this know that I've returned to Metadata. It's been just a great decision. Love the company, love the technology, and things have changed quite a bit. I think it's safe to say, like, we know those changes very well. I think sales is adapting to those changes. Yeah.
Especially in the outbound world.
Yeah.
It's so funny that you and I have been, we've known each other for almost 3 years now. And it's like everything evolves and changes so constantly. And like the only constant thing is change, right? Throughout these 3 years, like
Absolutely.
everything. I mean, nothing else, everything else has completely like reinvented the whole mythology and just email coming in so strong, all of those email sequencing tools that came out strong, social selling is making a comeback, the world of creators. What would you say is the number one must have for emails to get responses?
The biggest thing is knowing your buyer and then knowing the product and knowing them cold, understanding the challenges they have, understanding what motivates them, and really getting back to that challenger sale, being able to ask them difficult questions. The more you know about them, the more you can tailor your messaging to them. And that's what gets responses. Now, ideally, we need context, right? We need to understand, we want to reach out to them for some reason, not they were just hired, but there's some company goals, etc. There was a post somewhere. The LinkedIn see activity is still the most powerful button in sales, but there's not always context there. There's so many great tools that we've seen, but there's not always context there. If you know your buyer and you know your product, you can do that outreach and you can do that outreach successfully. If not, right, there are a lot of great tools out there that can get 90% there and do a lot of that for you. But yeah, the first thing is just knowing who you're selling to and knowing what motivates them and knowing their role specifically. Yeah.
Yeah, and that just gets me like thinking about, the spray and pray approach. I lead SDR teams, and that's something I'm really passionate about. It's like I see so many people out there just like training their reps that they have to get the meeting at whatever cost, and they're forgetting like what you just told me a few minutes ago, knowing your buyer and what resonates with them. And like they're just teaching their reps to get the meeting at whatever cost they have to. And they're really not challenging like beliefs or getting the prospects to uncover pain points and getting them excited about showing up to the call. It's just SDRs just, are you open to a call? That's it. Like booking meetings for the heck of booking meetings. And like, yeah, on the paper, volume looks great, but at the end, zero conversion, right?
Yeah, that's dead. Like, let's be real. That is RevOps and CFOs and CROs are looking to automate that spray and pray. They just are. So the SDR now has to be a more kind of nuanced role with deep domain expertise. Almost AE level expertise. And if they can't deliver that, well, there is an AI today.
An AI agent that could probably like basically build their list, have everything ready, and that's where AI steps in, right?
And then can find signals and write emails better, almost better. I built a GPT that is, I just use a picture of their LinkedIn profile and the emails, 90% there. So yeah. Like, I can talk about this. Like, I'm a big proponent of cold calling, right? We've 30 Minutes to President's Club has talked about it, open rates and when you use voicemails. You can't automate a cold call. So I don't think, that part will be driven by SDRs. Like, that's not going away for SDRs. And, nuanced context, like there's no silver bullet when it comes to context. Like we just discussed, there very rarely is. SDRs have that ability. But if you're just going to look at, okay, they're using a technology, and we want to reach out, that AI can do that really, really well now. There's a lot more too. It's just, if you can bring value, if you know something of value that maybe the prospect doesn't know, that's huge too. And I'm going to pick on AI. Like, you don't have to be perfect with it. Like, you could ask AI for a lot of that knowledge now, going into any industry.
Yeah, and a lot of people like, I don't get me wrong, I love AI. I use it every single day. I'm a huge user of ChatGPT, just, for team
Yeah,
meetings, like writing bullet points, end of day reports. I also I've taught my ChatGPT on how to respond to my emails, fed all of my objections. So obviously, I need to tailor the emails, make tweaks here and there, but
yeah,
that's the whole thing about using AI. And you, from your background, I know you, and I know that you've also worked at multiple startups and gotten, startups to the point where there was no product market fit. Can you
yeah,
tell me more about your experience on like how you took brand new products to market when nobody knows about it? And I know that you were there at a couple of startups, even one where you were
yeah,
like, you sold the biggest deal that they have ever sold.
yeah. That's tough. I think a lot of it is just logic, right? Like, okay, so we sell this. This helps this. This is the challenge organizations are going to face. I think that logic gets lost somehow. There's a sales. They're kind of like a Gong competitor a little bit, but like a sales coaching AI. And their messaging, I've told them this. I'm like, your messaging is terrible. Like, nobody knows what you do. Everyone gets lost in the sauce. The benefits are very, very clear, and they struggle with that messaging. With GTM, even with development, my dad's a programmer. With a lot of these solutions, the users, you can be very tactical, and you could be very plain in saying what the benefit is. That is huge. So don't overthink it. Get to it. That benefit, be direct, and you'll win there. A lot of times the messaging just gets convoluted, and okay, what are we trying to do here? At a startup, it's pretty linear. Uh,
And
you know,
I think that's one of the hardest things in startups. You and me, I think we struggled with the same thing. We were working at similar startups that sort of had their ICP, but sort of did not have their ICP. So it's like figuring out the messaging, I think, is the hardest part. And like, you never know, because one message that worked last week is, or like worked for a couple of
yeah,
months, no longer resonating with that industry. And it's just like, going back to like, balancing or figuring
yeah,
out who to target in a brand new market, or like maybe you thought this was your decision maker and
yeah.
guess what, these aren't your decision makers.
And you have competitors too, right? So maybe they get better at something that you used to be really good at. That's it's always a moving target. And then buying changes. Like, the buyer right now is very risk averse. Middle management isn't making buying decisions. They're going to the CFO, and they're going to deep procurement teams. So you have to be aware of that. You have to be aware that maybe this shouldn't be positioned as a sales call, but maybe more of an educational experience. And then marketing, marketing has to work there. Everybody's got good logos now. It's not hard to make a good logo, but marketing has to be there to build awareness and create buzz and
You just made me laugh
generate
when you
people
said the word
excited.
logo.
No, Parakeet's got a great logo. Like, you're not going to forget Parakeet. I used to own a Parakeet when I was a kid. So, but like, you got to do more than just the logo stuff, like this webinar. I've hosted a webinar when I was running sales, and video content, like the company Vector's exceptional video content. They actually meet in I think it's Orlando of all places, and rent out a room to create video content. But yeah, it's tough. Sales has never been. We've never had
And
more tools in sales,
now,
but it's never
just
been
think about
harder.
it, a lot of companies are overcomplicating it for reps as well. Like, for example, people like you and me who are like proficient in probably running like full cycle sales process, we can't overcomplicate it. But just think of an SDR. Like the other day, I think you've seen this guy on LinkedIn, Cade Hinkle. He's starting to grow. He's an 18-year-old. I mean, yes, it's the best time to be an SDR right now, but also a lot of companies are overcomplicating it. Like, just think
Well, he's
about it.
also a marketing tool.
Exactly. Cade just graduated from high school. He's 18 years old, and he put himself out there on LinkedIn and got a ton of followers. I'm I'm very sure his company's getting a lot of impressions and inbound leads just
Yeah.
from all of the content that Kate is creating. But I mean, outbound is just getting harder because we're having to one already complicate things like cold calling just alone will not cut it out. So it's like what you were talking about, marketing. Even if you have a great logo, that won't work. You have to add social content, email sequences, SMS text, events. Like there are so many things. Like cold calling is just the tip of an iceberg to the start of demand generation. And a lot of companies overcomplicate everything. What do you think is one part of the outbound process that companies like need to stop overcomplicating?
There's so much that can be done. You know what I will say? So there, the idea of like a 14 step sequence
It's
is
insane,
gone.
right? Like
Yeah.
asking SDRs to send out 15 sequences. And I was just about to get into that. Like
Yeah.
the sequence part, asking an SDR to do 15 sequences just because you thought your prospect books a meeting at 15 touches, it doesn't mean
No,
15 emails. Like
no.
call, text, email, right? LinkedIn message, that is 4 touches right there.
Yeah.
So
Three
maybe
calls, 3 emails,
exactly,
LinkedIn's, maybe,
exactly.
if you can connect with them. It's a concerted effort. Multi-channel wins, right? So if people are getting to know you and they're getting familiar, they might even come to the website.
And also prospecting, like
Yeah.
expecting USDRs to build lists. Like just think about it. People who are have been in the company for 2 years and have been selling definitely know who to reach out to. But a brand new SDR that knows nothing is right here. Asking them to build a list and reach out to those stakeholders is something that I also believe that companies are overcomplicating. What are some lessons that you've learned from failed outbound motions in general or email sequences that have shaped how you approach outbound today? Do you still do a lot of outbound today for
Oh, yeah.
metadata?
Whenever I have a free second, I try to do outbound. I still set meetings. I set 2 meetings yesterday off email, actually. The biggest recent learning for me, though, has been we all want to set a meeting with a C-level executive or director. They're candidly just not picking up the phone right now. They're just not. I wouldn't. I get tons of calls. Like I get like calls, fake IRS calls, and I get like debt consolidation calls. I'm like, what are you guys talking about? Like the sketchiest. Doral is like the epicenter in the states of all those sketchy calls. By the way, um, so I've learned to start calling, hey, that manager level or operator level, and try to get some information on the business, and then expand that. That's been a big learning of mine. The other thing that's been a learning is this is going to sound horrible, but a CEO is never looking at your email. They're just not, right? They live off their phone. The importance of teaming up with marketing to make sure that there's ads and events and other things to get those executives engaged with your brand is incredibly important. It's like, hey, we all want to shoot for the moon. It's not realistic. And then you have to really work with marketing. I'll also add that, hey, there are some circumstances where, hey, you can find data and use someone that they would look at scripts on websites and partner portals and find out a weakness, a vulnerability for security and run that. But that's still very, rare, right? You sell network security, you're not going to know a lot about their back end, their router,
Exactly.
their network. Yeah, it's hard. Sales is hard. Like we get paid well usually for a reason.
And how would you say that, how do you apply your outbound strategies to like social selling and to create a multi-channel approach? Because you and I are huge believers that you should never put your eggs all in one basket. So I know that you're doing cold calls. I know that you're doing email. Obviously, LinkedIn, you're growing a lot on LinkedIn. How
Yeah.
do you blend everything together for multi-channel?
Um, so I'm old. So I was doing LinkedIn before it was cool.
I
I
remember you told me that you were
Yeah,
one of like the first adopters, like way back and like
yeah.
a long time ago.
I do it for fun. Every now and then I've got a great Yeti cooler. I have a video I have to do every now and then. There's sponsorship opportunities, but you have to be careful just because I do have a full time job. But I do it for fun. There is with me a sheen of sales, right? So if I make a recommendation on something, subject matter that kind of gets people are like, oh, I'm just trying to sell something. Um, But if you can engage, which is fun, you build relationships that way. We're good friends. We met on
I know
LinkedIn.
that's how we met on LinkedIn. He would
Yeah,
comment on my posts. He found out I was moving to Miami, and that's how
I thought you
everything.
lived in Miami. um,
I now live in Miami. Correction.
yeah, no, I'm gonna come visit. Like, I think the world of you, and but like your friend, like I've met good friends through sales. The other thing that it can get you to do, so there are automation tools where you can build, not quickly, but you can build your network by connecting, and then your LinkedIn page becomes a billboard, becomes an advertisement for your business, right? So think about multi-threading again. Maybe you don't have the ad budget, but maybe you can use
I
your
remember just Dee and Cynthia a year ago at the companies they were at. Like, that's us. We had no budget and we were just billboards for our brands on LinkedIn. Remember
yes,
the companies who shall not be named. And that's us. We
no.
just became billboards for our brands to generate like literally inbound leads because there was no budget, there was nothing.
Um, I'll give credit to. So I joined Hockey Stack, and they're like, oh, the joining Hockey Stack was like our best day for website visits ever. And I was like, well, it's kind of a good metric, I wonder how valuable it is. And, in retrospect, we grew very quickly after me joining. And don't get me wrong, they have a great marketing team. They really understand modern marketing. They're creative. But, in consortium, that really worked well together. And then we hosted a dinner in Toronto. We had a partner, and they're like, oh, we've kind of struggled with dinners. There's some places where you're really going to struggle. Toronto isn't one of them. Like San Francisco, you're going to struggle getting people there. But regardless, we had a not sold out, but at capacity dinner, and that was done through LinkedIn, right? That was a lot of light LinkedIn automation to get people there, and that really worked well. And I'm able to do that because I don't have to connect with these people. I'm already connected with them, so I could just kind of shoot them a note. But yeah, build, turn into a billboard, and get it going. It's exciting.
I know you love LinkedIn, but if you would have to pick one channel that complements your outbound the best, which one would you use?
I love Reddit because it's just my hobbies are there. And then, sales Reddit, that's huge. I do think YouTube is kind of a sneaky good channel. So there's some great industry analysts out there.
Mhm.
The Cube, if you sell into IT and tech, maybe you'll get a stock tip there, but they are phenomenal on who they get there, their analysis.
Mhm.
Dave Vellante is incredible. Remember that name. Like if you watch their videos, subscribe to their videos, you'll learn a lot. And that's definitely I can't suggest that.
A lot of people are getting started in Reddit. Like, what do you think makes Reddit so valuable for sales?
It's long form discussion. It's industry specific. A lot of sales complaining too. So if you want to feel better, but your buyers, so especially technical buyers, and then now the LLMs have partnerships with Reddit. So Reddit's basically selling their data and is pushing those results. So Google, Reddit's coming up higher, and they don't seem to have, knock on wood, as bad of a bot problem as some of the other social media channels. But I learn a lot from Reddit. I go on Reddit. If you have an interview, you can learn about it. If you're meeting with somebody, you can learn about it. There's just a lot of valuable data there. And what I'm suggesting to clients here at Metadata is, hey, give for a month, just post, give some stuff, right? Learn it, and then lo-fi content, because we allow target-based titles, so you could do lo-fi ads in front of it, and it's a good community. It's a more kind community too. Like everyone's just outraged on Twitter and some of the similar ones. We're also going to see like OpenAI is going to develop a browser and their social media network. Right, there's going to be more there. I think we know Facebook is for our our grandparents. I love them, and then we know Instagram is for influencers and brands. So Reddit's really valuable there, but don't sleep on YouTube either. Like YouTube, there's so much good B2B content there, and you can really learn a lot about a company. And most podcasts are put there too. So that's another thing. So like Parakeet might put this on their YouTube page. You can learn a lot
We
about it.
actually do. We have a
Yeah.
YouTube page. So your face when we send you that will be on YouTube, which is super 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 fun. No,
Put some filters on, make me look better, Put,
I love that. I love that. No, and I really think that a lot of companies, especially
Yeah.
Companies, I will not name them, that got banned from LinkedIn. Remember, two companies that
Yes.
recently got banned. They are moving into Reddit now just because they have
Absolutely.
no LinkedIn, right? They have no logo on LinkedIn. So they're transitioning into other platforms, even TikTok now, to be able to find their buyers and push buyers from those channels into like obviously their demand
Yeah.
gen campaigns and just their general sales cycle.
Yeah.
And I think that will also, like, the future will be shaped into sequencing where you will not only use LinkedIn as a platform, but people will also start using Reddit, who knows, TikTok and
Oh, I'd
Instagram,
love to see
YouTube
that.
as a platform, right?
I'd love to see that. And there's also good, like the good feelings, right? So like Cynthia, like we have a WhatsApp channel, right? And like we'll share pictures, and I hear about your personal life, and that makes me happy. So I go to WhatsApp, and like, it's a close group of friends, and I'm like, this is a good thing. With Reddit, like my hobbies are there, right? So I
Are
ski.
you big on Reddit? Like I'm super interested on the Reddit thing just because I saw Brianna start the Apollo channel,
Yeah,
and like I know also AJ, when he sees this, or he is also promoting Parakeet a lot on Reddit,
yeah,
and
yeah.
Parakeet
My
is
C
getting a
recommends it.
lot of traction. People talking about cold email, what sequencing tools, and I also believe that in Reddit, people can be themselves anonymously and just
Yes,
quote like their real opinions about a tool and go unhinged on what they have to say,
yeah. Talk
right?
about salary and stuff like that. So I have hobbies, right? So I collect pocket knives, like the corniest dad hobby. But like I feel so good when like there's a new knife or a new tip about a hobby, and then I scroll about about sales tactics or AI tactics, or even something funny like there's someone who got married to ChatGPT, and then ChatGPT 5, she said they killed her spouse. Like stuff like that's just fun, and you can control it more on Reddit, whereas with X and Threads, sometimes you get sucked into like the negativity. And then LinkedIn, look, everybody who's an owner is trying to promote their business. It gets very annoying, right?
I think be like you and me being creators, in I believe that the creator economy, yes, it will continue to produce, but it's starting, there's a downfall. Like there was a
There's
moment
diminishing
last
returns. Yeah,
exactly last year and beginning of this year where I'm not kidding, I would get like three sponsored or four sponsored posts a month or even more sometimes. Companies hitting me on a daily basis. Let's do a partnership. Let's do a partnership. They didn't even care how your post performed. They just wanted to see their company tagged. And
yeah,
I'm starting to see less and less of that where companies are being just smarter who they reach out to and just building back in person events where creators go to those in person
yes,
events. And that's how, they create inbound leads as well.
yeah. I think it has to be concerted. It has to be all together, right? So like like I wish we could hire you, right, to talk about like ads and outbound, and you do a post and maybe a video, and then post on the other channels, and then we'd have a dinner in Florida, and we'd invite you, and and maybe you could create some content. Leslie, I always get her last name wrong.
Leslie
Vanette's very
Annette,
good.
we just
Yeah,
had her on. Like we had her like 2 months ago here. Yeah.
she's the best at that. So if you're a creator, but she's excellent at that. Nick Bennett here in Boston, he's great at that. He's also like phenomenal at that. The other thing is the algorithms are I'll do a good post and I'll be like, this used to get like 5,000 views and now I'm not getting 1,000. And then you post something silly like company gossip and that gets like 30,000. So the algorithms are a little weird. I think that's affecting it too. But yeah, like so Scott Brinker, he's like the godfather of Martech, and he does the landscape. And he's a great guy, super like incredible individual. He's so sweet and so smart. And Workato would invite him to events, and like meeting a celebrity, like I'd be like, oh man, like I'm so happy to see you, and like and he lives in Boston. But that was just really concerted way to do that, and Nick Bennett does that as well. But in person is making a comeback.
Come back.
So if you're in
Yep.
sales, you got to be willing to travel. I would say 25%, and then SDRs, like this is a smoothest moving SDR, right? Find an industry event where a lot of your buyers will be at, not
I
one that
was
you would
just in one.
sponsored.
I was
Yeah.
literally just in one over the weekend. We got 45 sets, in-person sets that were transitioned to sets today. And both of the 2 units that we took to the event sold live.
Wow.
Nothing better than, yeah, having doctors buy the devices live.
So I'll give you like kind of random. So my family business, they sell plants in Miami for landscaping. There's a huge show in Orlando, right? If I provide services to those companies, I don't sell plants, right? But maybe I do marketing for them. Maybe I do accounting for them. Maybe I'm a SaaS platform that allows them to do some of this stuff. You can go there and you're going to meet every owner manning the booth. And if you're gregarious, and SDRs are usually a little younger, they have more energy, they can stand on their feet longer. I hate manning booths. You can just walk the floor. So I would do that at RSA conference. I've been to like 7 RSA conferences, and I would walk the floor, and I would always come back with at least 60K of new revenue. So that's something else that SDRs can do. I've seen other companies do that. And if you're remote, think about, right? You could cover the East Coast, you can cover the West Coast, you can cover the South, Central area. So there's a lot of fun things you can do there. It's multi-channel, right? it's what you do, Cynthia. You do it better than anybody. Um,
But you and me are true practitioners. Like a lot of people who are there on LinkedIn, it's funny because they really walk the talk, right?
you can
They're
definitely
all
walk
about
the talk.
doing the sales thing and like doing this. They're selling tools, they're telling people to do things, and they really, they have no idea how to do it. And you
You got
and
to own
me,
a
we
room.
have
Yeah.
started from scratch with zero budget, built outbound plays, and literally our first go-to was the phone. We knew that
Oh yeah,
yes,
the phone.
LinkedIn would create a lot of organic content, but we started from scratch, right? With zero budgets, and we just hit the phone. So if I would say what was my first outbound play, if I had to start from zero, it would be the phone. A lot of people can't say what would be yours, the phone too, right?
Yeah. I mean, they would all work together. I love the phone. Shout out Orem is incredible. Their delivery rates are very high. I love that technology. It has to work together. And don't think that someone knows you're calling them. They see your number 3 times. They see a voicemail. They're not more likely to respond to that email to tell you to go away or, you know, to book a meeting. So it does work hand in hand. But the other thing I'll say, and this is something I'm bad at too, if you're full cycle, you do need to block it, right? Because you need to be able to study the meetings that you're going to have. And that's something I've learned. It's taken me a while to learn, but I'll the night before. I love AI. I'll put in the call transcript. I'll go on Perplexity about the business and the business challenges. There's some great resources on that. And the more you do that too, like the better you are. So the better you are as a sales rep. But yeah, you have to own a room. Like Cynthia, I know you. I could put you in any room. Give you 2 pages about the technology, and you would own it. I kind of wish you were going to inbound. I could pay you to be a
Not
celebrity.
going, like, I'm still like technically in SaaS, but I'm in the medical device world. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, you're you'll be back in SaaS. There'll be a new
hopefully
SaaS
one
wave.
day. Hopefully one day. And I mean, what would you say? Like you've managed SDRs, BDRs, AEs before. You're a leader as well. What's the fastest way you've seen a rep level up, like from order taker to outbound expert? Just because you and me have done everything at the stage, right?
So look. I get it. Cold calling's hard. I'm a little bit older. The younger generations, they're all digital, right? My daughter's digital with her friends. It's hard. The quickest way is to make I forget who said it was like make 9 cold calls before 9. Actually, make them before 8:30, and then make 9 calls after 5. Just pick up the phone. You're gonna mess up. Just be like, say, hey, I'm new. Da da da. That's the best way to learn. And then also script. I have script resources. Peter C. Ekstrom has fantastic script. Script is more about just having a talk track than actually what you say. And that, if you could script it, practice it, talk to ChatGPT, talk to your family member, talk to your dog, like that'll help you improve demonstratively. Like you'll get those improvements, and that's the quickest way to learn, and that's the quickest way to become better at sales. So before my first AE job, I spent a month just outbounding and supporting an AE,
Just to
and
learn and get through the motions and understand what a day in the life looks like, right?
I got very fortunate. He was a great guy, Vinny Costa, amazing guy. Sent him a bunch of meetings, prepped him for meetings, sat in on the meetings. And then when I started, I was despite not having the best territory, I was the second highest performing rep of that hiring that class, and I really attributed it to meeting with him. And I used to be terrible at emails. So I worked at by appointment only that didn't let you send emails back in the day. I was awful at it, typos and stuff. But I still really performed. And it sounds so cliche, but a lot of it's just hard work. Like, are you enthusiastic about it? And I still get enthusiastic about sales. I know you do.
The boring
Um,
work. People forget that the boring work is, I tell my SDRs, like, discipline and consistency triumph over motivation. The days where you don't want to do that call, the days where you don't want to show up, the days where you don't feel
yeah,
like it, that's where discipline and consistency step in. And that's like, that I am obviously, like, I lead SDRs, but I'm also an individual contributor. I have my own quota, which I
yeah.
thankfully hit last week, but I'm still booking meetings. Like, I got 4 meetings today because I did my calls, sent out my texts, sent out my emails, did everything I had to do. And that's just part of the role. Like,
You got to
like,
blank it. Yeah,
exactly, exactly. And I mean, just stepping into like the challenger sales methodology, like, how do you coach reps to teach, tailor, and take control when you're not doing it yourself, right?
yeah. So I do want to recommend a book, The Jolt Effect. So I'm a big believer in the challenger sale. You got to take all like the 75% first steps there, and then you have to apply the Jolt Effect. How do we mitigate risk and lower risk? Because the buying process is changing. Um, and, our buyers, we want them to be successful. Like, they need to be on a personal level. So I highly recommend that book. I'll get you a copy, Cynthia, if you haven't.
Send me. I want it. Yes, I want to read it. Yes.
Either a hard copy, you message me hard copy or soft copy. I owe you a wedding gift too. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. But Medic right now, and I was talking. So I have a friend. I met with him this morning, and he is really one of the preeminent RevOps individuals. Incredibly smart. Worked for some companies that had huge IPOs, and he said Medic and MedPick are gone, and it's true because the opportunity flow, like, it's not there, right? We can't just rely on that. So the challengers say, I think defaulting to that, I think defaulting to the Jolt effect is excellent too. Um, yeah, both very good.
And I know you're a huge believer also in like the P Club. What do you think? What's the mindset difference between hitting quota and being a top performer for you?
Knowledge, right? The chess game, right? So if I say this is going to happen. If I do this is going to happen. Some of that's experience. So I'll give you an example. We were in late stage with Glean, their big AI company. And I purposely said, why don't you check out this competitor, knowing that competitor's limitations and that we would beat them. My boss almost killed me, but I was like, why don't you check them out? That logic game. And then something that's lacking now with sales, because it's hard right now, is just enthusiasm. So you'll get a lot of sales calls, like, oh, are you qualified? Are you not qualified? And that's just sales 101, is bringing that enthusiasm. Jeremy Donovan, I think, posted about that. And like, we have stuff going on in our lives. I had my 2 grandparents pass away. I have a very dear friend who his brother passed away and his wife had illness. And man, he's a grinder, right? As you get older, those challenges will pop up more. Um, and Brian Lamana, I hope he's okay with me sharing this. His mother passed away when he was very young, and that's something that, if you've read Malcolm Gladwell's books, like, it can turn you into an incredible person, but it can also cause you to be angry. And sometimes I've told him this, like, I beat myself up a little bit, or I miss my mom, and I think about, because my mother passed away, I think about him and what he's accomplished. And um, Alex Kremer, they do their sales getaways. He's an amazing individual, by the way. He's like very spiritual, very nice. And I was surprised by how many people have dealt with tragedy, either growing up or just, since COVID, right? And that was a really incredible experience for me to see that. How many people who are exceptional sales leaders had a panic attack? Like Chris Orlov he'll tell you about it. He had a panic attack on President's Club, and he named his company P Club. There's some therapists.
When he turned it into something super positive, and that's what a lot of people like.
Yes.
You can turn it into something super positive and just
Yeah.
comes back stronger.
And
I love that.
Yeah, he's incredible. Um, and then your story is incredible too. Like you had your challenges. You were in a completely different industry,
I was
lockdown.
in real, no, I like right before the pandemic. Like I've told my story several times, but I used to be in real estate, and I mean, it was a completely different industry, commercial real estate. Like I sold leases to companies that wanted to lease out malls, right?
Yeah,
Spaces in malls. And I knew nothing about working remotely, or actually I did do cold calls, but business in Latam works differently. Everybody lives on WhatsApp. So basically you're just WhatsApping people. These aren't
yeah,
like technically real cold calls. And it's about who you know and who knows you. And then the pandemic happened and I was thrown out there, had to put myself out there, start cold calling in English. By the way, my first language is Spanish. Yo hablo español. So basically thrown into selling into another language. I had to restart my career as an SDR, and it was either make it or break it. Like I had one choice: either I learn a new skill, break into tech sales, or like, just be super negative about it and don't know what I'm going to do with my life. So, yeah,
yeah,
that definitely like having that happen to me completely changed my career trajectory, and I'm super grateful that that happened to me.
yeah. It's an incredible story. All right, what are some things everyone can learn from? So I think it'll be fun to wrap up this way. So I did prepare a
Love it. Love
slide.
it. Let's do it.
Hopefully, I could share it.
Love it. Thank you so
Um,
much for preparing that.
no, I really think the world of you and Parakeet is a cool
Do you
company.
have, yeah, you're sharing. Perfect.
So
Perfect.
about me, hey, I'm old, but I mentioned this earlier. Know your buyer cold, right? If you can, do what they do, right? So if you're selling to accountants, figure out some accounting, right? Just do it. Know your product cold. This is so important. The more you know your product, the more you'll win. Context wins with outbound. We're hearing all this about better emails, better emails. Two bullets. Hey, you have this problem. I know for a fact we can help this. Try to bring good ideas to a conversation. Cynthia's got a ton of good ideas. That's why people like meeting with her and like talking with her because you really do. And then the buyer's always changing. Think about that. If you're 25 now, in 20 years you'll be 45, and your buyer will be 20 years younger than you. How will that change? Um, and then Pitbull is better than Bad Bunny, as you could see. But that's just my quick notes on everything. Yes. Um, I hope that helps everybody. It's always
No, I
fun to chat with you.
appreciate it so much. It has been so insightful, and it was a pleasure, all as always, having you. I love your energy. You're super positive. For our listeners, if you want to keep learning from Dee, make sure to follow him on LinkedIn and check out the incredible work he's doing at Metadata. We're outbound. And social selling meet real pipeline growth. That's it for today's episode. I'm Cynthia Handal with Parakeet in the Nest. See you next time, guys.